Barking was originally a fishing village, serving Billingsgate Fish Market. Fishing was the most important industry in Barking from the 14th century until the mid-19th. Who knows Barking as an important part of Greater London find it difficult to envisage the town as it was 162 years ago when the Barking Baptist Church was first formed.
Understanding is that it started to meet in a pub, in a room above a pub opposite the Anglican Church. The Bull, and this is all covered in here. They outgrew the room above the pub, and then they had to get a building, and they got a small building, not here, but across the way, in a street that's now demolished and gone. And then they outgrew that. And then they bought this site here, and they built it on here. And much of the work on the buildings was done by the members themselves.
Yeah, when the church was first built, it was built in the middle of a very large number of family houses, which is of course very different to what it is now. And obviously it was put in the middle of a community. That community, the houses have all been pulled down now. And we're in a shopping area and commercial area, but there are now houses being built again, so we're hopeful that that side of the church, that nature of being in the middle of the community, will spring up again. The history of the town, Barking, it had the biggest abbey, and it was the abbess there was very powerful. It was a very wealthy area, but it was also known for a tremendous amount of healing. There were lots of healings that took place in Barking. When all the dissolution of all the monasteries and things, then that's when it was broken down. But we still have the ruins of the old abbey, and St Margaret's Church has the Curfew Tower, which is I'm not sure how old it is, but it's a really old building. The other thing about Barking was it was a fishing village. It had its own fishing fleet, which was one of, again, second largest, I think, in the country at one point. So this town has had lots of changes, from being an abbey, from being a fishing village, to being quite industrialised at one point as well. And now we're having further changes with a very mixed culture. We have people from a lot of immigrants from Poland, from Somalia, from Africa. You know, it's a very multicultural area with a very diverse area now, which is exciting but difficult working with them.
Well, I joined the church in 1961, and the then pastor, on the next church meeting, when I was accepted into membership, he resigned. This has got nothing to do with me, I assure you. But during my time here, we've had long periods of interregnum. Usually, I mean, anything up to from 8 to 13 years. Very long time. Sometimes it was because the church didn't really know what it wanted. Sometimes because there's been dissension in the church and it wasn't ready for a minister or a pastor. Some people decided they wanted a preacher, and some people wanted a pastor, and then there was a bit about you couldn't have a man who wasn't married. That was a shame too. So our church has had a checkered history, but nevertheless it's continued to go in spite of, and because God's been with it. God must be tearing his hair out and thinking, oh my goodness, here they go again. But he still continued to bless us.
I went to Barking in a special occasion around 3 years ago to preach. I became an accredited minister here in London, part of the Baptist Union of Great Britain. Therefore, they asked me to go there to preach. So on that occasion, I went there and I saw the beautiful place. And I asked questions to the members, and they told me about, wow, beautiful stories about that place. And my heart was really touched by the experience, the reality. I remember that at the end of my message in the first sermon, I asked them to play music, and they had no musicians to play. They had a CD recorder, and then they pressed the play button because they were not able to provide musicians. And again, this touched my heart very much. I decided to pray about it.
Before Andre came, we had a moderator, Malcolm Martin, who was a Brethren man and a lay man with a job, estate agent, sort of a estate agent. But he challenged us some years ago about our vision. What was the church's vision? Because the church seemed to be not going anywhere. And so he spent several weeks with the deacons going back to basics. What are we here for? What are we doing? What's our vision? And there were a number of options. One was to close the church here and amalgamate with another church in the borough. One was to set up a new work somewhere on the Gascoigne housing estate. But after all the discussion, the view was that we still felt that God had a purpose for us being here, particularly because we had a very flourishing work with the young people. And if we closed down that would be lost.
So after finishing my first message there, I went home, and then I received a message from the church administrator asking me to go again. And then I went again, and then they asked me to go for a special meeting with the deacons when they invited me, saying that many pastors have been there helping them, teaching, preaching, but they have been contacted by the whole church asking me to be the next pastor. So after a gap of between 13 to 15 years, where they were without pastor, without a leader, so I became the pastor. And for me it was a tremendous joy.
The vision, I suppose, now is best expressed by the fact that Andre has come, and he's provided us with a vision. I think he's provided us with a vision of a different style of church, a different style of worship, in line with what the new area now represents. It represents a cultural melting pot where the old ideas of the hymns and the prayers and the strict routine of worship no longer is suitable. Anyone who comes into our services will notice there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of people moving around and expressing themselves and so on, and it's a different type of worship. So the vision really, at the moment, would be to continue and enlarge on that. And I know Andre's vision is that we should fill the church, whereas we were talking about closing off the gallery and just meeting upstairs. His vision is to fill the church, and that's a tough ask. We need God's help to do that, but numbers are growing and we get regular people coming in.
Our main target in Barking Baptist Church is, number one, to imitate Jesus Christ, to learn through the reading of the Gospels, through the study of the Scriptures, to learn Jesus' methodology, enabling people, what we call the disciples, the church, the fellowship, to imitate Jesus through his actions, and through our actions in this world to imitate our Savior. Therefore, we are a very inclusive church. We are with open arms to anyone who comes from any nationality. We just want to embrace people and to teach them about salvation, about the gospel, about how to be a Christian in our society today. So the church is growing. We have around 15 nationalities at the moment. We have a choir. We have youth coming to church. We have a new moment, which for me is very important. So come anytime and join us for a service.